Hey, good morning everybody. I have to stand back to wave, otherwise I'm going to knock over all of this stuff. Happy Wednesday. Our sun is still shining, as you can see, and still zero complaints. So a couple of mentions. As you guys saw yesterday, we did those spider plants and the pothos. You guys exploded our social media again. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We love it. Basically, I just love all the attention, if I'm being honest. That's why I give so much stuff away. It's all about this. Really. No, I'm just kidding. I just love giving you guys stuff. I love getting people enthusiastic about planting. That's really what it all boils down to. Keep commenting that you want those spider plants. Don't forget, on Insta and Facebook, we're giving away the pothos and the potted spider plant, the special ones. We've got seeds to give away. All of our plants are rolling in. If you go to goldenacre.ca, perennials are online. I can't even keep up. I can't keep up. I believe our annuals and hanging pots are coming online this week. Crazy how much stuff is happening here. We are so busy, and yet we always carve out our time every day to come down and do this with you guys, and I wouldn't have it any other way. It's truly a labor of love. So keep it coming, keep the questions coming. We love it. So somebody actually requested this. We were debating about getting to it, and the request put us over the edge. So again, send in your requests if you want to learn a subject matter. We will try and address all of them. And it was about amending existing garden soil. So soil amendment, basically all that means is putting new stuff into a tired soil. I get asked countless times every spring, I get asked by people, do I need to replace my soil? Absolutely not. I have only ever in my entire career in horticulture and as a landscaper had to replace outside soil once, and that was because we found an old oil furnace that a construction company had buried in the garden. Oil had leached out into the ground and the soil was contaminated. We had to replace that soil. Other than that, I have never witnessed it. Your soil needs an amendment. So that's where all of this stuff in front of me, and I know you guys can't see it all because that's how much there is. And it can seem like the fertilizers, scary, overpowering. Like, what do I need for my garden? So what I thought we would do is we would get rid of all of it, and we would bring on the key elements one by one and talk about them. There are certain ones every garden can benefit from. And I think the one most people are familiar with, that really is what gardeners call the black gold, is compost. And I grabbed my favorite, my personal favorite, the sea soil. There are any number of composts. This one is my personal favorite. You know, I can go on and on. If you get me talking about this, it can be hard to get me to shut up about it. So, what is compost? Essentially, all compost is decayed organic matter, decomposed organic matter that breaks down, and it keeps and retains and breaks down all of those nutrients, and it puts an organic nutrition back into your garden when you put it in. Compost works really simply. You take a pile of organic matter. Now you want it mixed. I've seen people pile up grass clippings this high and they're like, it's not composting. And it hasn't. You've choked it. There isn't enough variation for it to break down. You want to mix in eggshells and banana peels and small branches that you've cut off your trees and leaves that you've raked up and the old annuals that you pull out, you throw them in there, coffee grounds, all kinds of things. You want your compost filled and active. And what it really takes, it takes 4 major things on top of the organic matter for a compost to happen. It takes oxygen, it takes warmth, it takes bacteria, and it takes moisture. That's why it can be so hard to backyard compost in Calgary, because of the moisture. We tend to dry out. That's why I like to get my own compost, and I like this one. So that's, in a nutshell, that's our compost. The next one that we see entered a lot is coconut coir or peat moss. Now I just grabbed a couple of small ones. We've got huge bales of this, but if I put the bale there, then you wouldn't be able to see this. If you remember what I said at the beginning of the show, it's all about the attention. It's all about this. So if I had a bale of peat moss, so we went with a little one. Essentially, what these two products are going to do is they're going to go into the soil, they're going to break it up, and they're going to aerate it. So as we said yesterday when we were doing the house plants, your roots don't want to be exposed to the air and the sun. They don't want to dry out, but they do need air in there for the air exchange of gases. So this is going to floof the soil up and light it up. The other great thing about these two products, and they're different but same, okay? Different but same. And the other thing I like about them is both of them hold significantly more than their own weight in water. So you put these in and then you water and they hold that moisture and they don't release it as quick as soil. So when it's around your plant roots, especially in an environment like ours, these really help control the moisture release and the intake. So the air isn't just pulling it all out and drying it out. This helps retain some moisture, and they also retain nutrition. So when you fertilize, and Amendment isn't fertilizing. Remember, we did one on fertilizing, so they go hand in hand. These are going to hold on to that. So instead of the fertilizer that the plant wasn't able to uptake, be it granular as it breaks down with warmth and moisture, or water soluble as we're watering, it's hitting there. As the plant can't drink it all, well, without this kind of stuff in, it's just going to run away. So there's your roots, it's just going to wash past them. But with this, it's going to get hauled closer to the roots, so your roots can pull it up. So these, I think, they're in line with the compost. They can really be essential in any garden. There's a purpose and a place for them. Now, another one, and this one is kind of relatively new. A lot of people have known about it, but it really became prevalent a few years ago, and that there's all different kinds. There's glacial rock dust, there's volcanic dust. Essentially, it's a rock mineral dust. So we all know the purpose of eating fruits and veggies and herbs and all of that good stuff is you get lots of minerals and vitamins, okay? Where do those minerals and vitamins come from? Well, they come from the soil and the fertilizers we use as the plant extracts them. We're eating it, we're like, oh, this tomato is full of juicy minerals and it's delicious. Maybe you guys don't say that, that's verbatim. I say that while I'm eating my tomatoes. But where are those minerals coming from? Well, they're coming from the earth. After a while, you know, soil is it's an infinite resource, but everything in it can be finite, especially when we have these small flower beds and veggie beds that are locked in. So we need to replenish it. We need to bring it back. And this is where this comes in. Again, this isn't a fertilizer. There's no NPK count. You will have noticed that on those. There's no NPK count. I'm going to show you there is an NPK count on the compost, and that's just because of how rich it is in those nutrients as the plants break down. Really low. I wouldn't consider it a fertilizer. It is an amendment, but I just wanted to show you in case you see that and you think you might over-fertilize. So back to this. This is chock full of, remember when we talked about fertilizers? I don't know if you guys remember, we talked about macro and micro ingredients. The macros were the NPK, the micro were the things like the magnesium, the cobalt, the iron, the boron. Remember my killer joke? I hope I'm not boring you. Come on. That's where this comes in. This is higher in counts like that. And there's all different kinds of these on the market. Find the one that you like the best. Essentially, they're all going to do the same thing. It's like peat moss and coir. There is a difference, but they're all essentially going to replenish the same thing, the same idea that you're looking for. Now, another one that we have here in Calgary is gypsum. And gypsum is a hidden gem, is what I'm going to call it. A lot of people still don't know about it. If you've gardened in Calgary, I guarantee you've encountered clay. It's the #1 thing we hear about. Now you add any of those products I've shown you, it will help break your clay apart. But what will happen is your clay breaks apart, the compost sticks in it. Remember when we talked about soil, the sub-layers pushing up and the top layers going down and all of that reaction happening? Well, as that clay turns, these may be too condensed with compost to stick, but as they turn, the clay sticks together and you end up with another clump. Gypsum actually chemically breaks down the clay, and it dries it out and breaks it down, and it can't stick. it ends up becoming soil. So the gypsum, especially in our area, is really good. That's all it's going to do. Really, all it's going to do is add that in for you. It does also have calcium and sulfur. Any gardener knows that great, especially in your tomatoes and your root vegetables. So calcium, I consider it an essential for growing in Calgary. You're going to see some claims it's a cure-all, blah, blah, blah. It genuinely isn't. In our conditions, though, for the clay we deal with, your gypsum is a godsend. It really is. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is how do you work this nutrition in? And that's where your garden cultivators and your garden hose and whatnot come in. And as you can see, all different lengths and sizes and ends. Not a one size fits all. Find the one that's right for you. A lot of people like these ones. They extend so you're not breaking your back. But if you're down on your knees, you don't have a big handle sticking out behind you. 3-prong, 4-prong, that's a diamond hoe. We've got Warren hose, we've got all kinds of stuff. Most important thing when you're working those nutrients into your soil, I see some people back breaking. They're digging down 8 inches, they're working it in. You're wasting your time and your money and your energy. You only want to go into the top 2 to 4 inches. As I was saying, remember when we talked about soil and the sublayers and all the stuff and the turning and the natural happenings? As that is going on and as all of this is happening, well, the nutrition that you've put in, all of this amendment, everything that you've added to the surface of the soil is getting turned in. As it rains, as you water, it's pulling it down, it's leaching throughout your soil. So if you're already working it in 8 inches and then you start planting your tomatoes in a 4-inch pot, these nutrients are washed down by the time the roots get to them. So you only really want to work it in to the top 2 inches. Plus, if you have an existing perennial garden and you really start getting that in, you might start ripping up roots. You might damage existing roots. You don't want that. It's a gentle process. Fresh plot, a big wide open plot for your veggies, yeah, you can go vigorous, really work it in, break it up. Around your perennials, around your trees, you want to be a bit more gentle. So kind of feel it out. Gentle and moving slow is often the key to the garden. Now you'll see here as well, I brought some other things that I haven't touched on. We've got perlite, we've got vermiculite, we've got phosphate, we've got dolomitic lime, aluminum sulfate, biochar. These are all amendments as well. There's nothing wrong with adding them, but you need to add these if you need them. I see people come in and they buy stuff they really don't need because somebody else has used it. That person might have a specific purpose. Again, always remember, one size does not fit all for gardening. Horticulture is an art, botany is a science, and we're dealing with horticulture, we're dealing with growth. Your neighbor might have been working their soil for years and years and years and years, and they barely need to use gypsum. You've never done it before, you might have to use gypsum significantly. You might have to use it 3 times in a year to stop that clay building up. What somebody else does doesn't mean it's what you have to do. Come in, tell us about your soil, shoot us a DM, ask us a question for Friday, and we'll answer it and we'll get you there. You know, the difference between these two, you can see the CIL aluminum sulfate and the CIL dolomitic lime. One is going to acidify your soil, another one is going to lower the acidity of your soil. What are you planting? What is needed? Peat moss is going to add acidity, coconut coir is neutral. So all of these can be answered and we can formulate what you guys need to get you the best results. So in a nutshell, that's amending your soil. Don't be overcome by it, stick with your key ones. I'll go over them really quick. Compost, peat moss and coir, mineral rock and gypsum. Those are your 4 key ones. Everything else you may need, you may not need, and you may not need those. That about wraps it up. We only have 15 minutes to get through these. So I could talk at length about everything, but I wanted to hit the key ones, the ones I mentioned. Get a good cultivator, can't ask for best, save your back. Have a wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. I plan on it. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for Thursday. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.